Welcome to Faithful Doubt. My name is Jordan. This week we're going to talk about money. Our question this week comes from our very own producer, Austin Robinson, and he asks, did God ever intend for us to use currency? I don't really know how to answer this question. So I went through scripture and a lot of other resources as I was preparing for this question. I've never actually heard it or been asked this question. I know that there is a lot of cultural conversation about how we wish, there's obviously no currency system and that we could have more of just like a... I know people would like to live in Star Trek universe where there's no currency and things just kind of are provided, but that's obviously not going to happen in our current world. So it's a good question. I don't know that I have an answer necessarily in this episode, but let's walk through this question a little bit. And I think where we need to start is all the way back in the book of Genesis, before the fall of man, before sin enters into the world. Was there currency? And we don't have a clear answer in the scripture that there was currency. In fact, there doesn't seem to be any currency based on what we read, because everything that Adam and Eve needed before the fall was provided. God says all the plants are for you to eat. And in fact, work actually exists before the fall. Adam tends to the garden and tends to the animals. And so we don't think that there was a currency. I believe there wasn't at the time. But that doesn't mean that currency is necessarily bad or that it wouldn't have existed had Adam and Eve not sinned. Now, I think you can make the great argument that there was never going to be a currency system if they had never sinned. And I'm inclined to believe there never would have been currency. But again, work exists before the fall. And this is why when I think of heaven, a lot of people might think of heaven as this place where I'm just going to do nothing but, relax and have fun and do whatever the heck I want. I don't think heaven's going to be like that. I think heaven will actually have work, because work is purpose, and we all have purpose. And if we don't have purpose, life is not very enjoyable. It's very easy to become depressed, and there's all sorts of problems that follow along with that. And so God gives us purpose when he creates us. He says, you are to manage my creation that I have given you. Enjoy it. It is a gift, but enjoy it and tend to it and work and take care of it. This is your purpose. And so I think work will exist when we're in heaven, but does that mean there will be currency? The Bible talks about money quite a bit. In fact, there's over 2,000 verses that refer to money. It is the second most referenced topic within Scripture. So money is very important, not because the object of money, but how we manage and take care of it and how we use it. So money can be used for good or for evil. It's an amoral object. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about money in a later episode. And so you can follow that episode later on. The question in that episode is a little different, but we're going to talk about money in a later episode. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that other than this. I think when man and woman sinned, we ushered in corruption. And then we no longer worked out of pure joy and purpose. Before we sinned, we had purpose and joy, and we enjoyed our work. After sin, we now have to work for our food. And in Genesis 2 and 3, God lays it out that Adam will no longer, or he now has to tend the field and the soil by the sweat of his brow, and it'll be hard labor. And we have to work for our food. And so because we have to work for our food, it's no longer just provided to us. We came up with the idea of a currency system as just, this wasn't an American idea. This wasn't a cultural idea. This is just a human idea that we came up with currency, that we had to give a transaction whether it was trading something or paying with gold or silver. And eventually we have notarized money, and now we're getting into cryptocurrency. And so there's always been currency. It changes forms. And so I think, if I had to give my opinion on this, I don't think currency would have existed. I don't think God intended us to use currency, because everything was supposed to be perfect. Everything was supposed to be provided for us. We weren't supposed to need to pay for things. We were going to work, but we had everything provided. And we took it, we disobeyed God, and we abused the wonderful gift of creation that he gave us. And ever since then, we now have to work for our food, and that requires a currency system. So this question, honestly, I appreciate it very much, but I think it leads more into a discussion on how God views money and how we should manage it. And I want to talk about that in a future episode a little bit more. So if you have a question or comment on this specific episode, please put that below or message me, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But great question today, Austin. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you'd like to see more, you can go over to our Facebook page and request to join there, or you can watch any of our episodes on YouTube, or you can check us out on Instagram and TikTok now. Or if you just like the audio and you'd like to listen, you can find us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. I'll see you guys next time.